All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into something you might find pretty surprising, the connection between cannabis and focus.
Okay.
We've got some really interesting insights from Joe Rogan's conversation with a trauma therapist,
Okay.
Dr. Paul Conte, and it might challenge some of your preconceived notions about weed.
Interesting.
So, most people think cannabis is all about chilling out and zoning out.
Right, right.
But what's fascinating about this conversation is that both Rogan and Dr. Conte actually suggest cannabis might increase focus, just in a very specific way.
Yeah, that is kind of counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, right.
Most people think of weed as something that, makes you space out and lose track of things.
Exactly. Like, isn't weed supposed to make you, just.
Yeah, just like mellow and relaxed.
Yeah.
Not necessarily focused.
Yeah, but Dr. Conte specifically says that cannabis can increase attention and focus. What's key here is the idea of selective attention. It's like cannabis helps you create a laser focus, but you don't always get to choose what it's pointed at.
Interesting. So it's not that you're necessarily getting more work done. It's more like you're just really, really into whatever happens to be in front of you at the time.
Exactly. So think about those times you've been hyper-focused on something while high, maybe losing track of time completely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could definitely relate to that.
That's selective attention at work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I've definitely had times where I've gotten so absorbed in a creative project while high
Yeah.
that I've completely forgot to eat dinner.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty focused.
But wouldn't that same laser focus also make you more sensitive to distractions? Like if something else grabs your attention, would it be harder to shift back to what you were doing?
Ooh, that's a really good point. That's really interesting. Yeah, that gets to the heart of why this topic is so complex, because while some people might find cannabis enhances their focus on certain tasks, for others, it might make them more easily distracted.
Right.
Yeah. And this is where, individual differences and the specific strain of cannabis come into play.
Okay.
There's so much more research needed to tease all of that apart.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where Rogan brings up what he calls the disciplined stoner paradox.
Oh, okay.
And he points out that some people who use weed get nothing done,
Right.
while others are highly productive and successful.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example of how cannabis interacts with our personalities and our habits. If someone is already driven, disciplined, cannabis might be a way for them to relax and de-stress, allowing them to come back to their work with renewed focus. But, someone who struggles with procrastination, cannabis might actually just exacerbate those tendencies.
Right. So it's not a magic productivity pill.
Right.
It's more about how cannabis interacts with who you already are.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's not as simple as saying cannabis makes you focused or cannabis makes you lazy.
Right.
It's about understanding that cannabis has a variety of effects, and those effects can be influenced by a whole host of factors, from genetics, biology, to personal habits, and even the specific strain of cannabis being used.
So it sounds like the effects of cannabis on focus are very individual and nuanced. We can't just make sweeping generalizations.
Absolutely. And, it's important to remember that Rogan's experiences, while interesting, are anecdotal.
Sure.
We need more scientific research to fully understand how cannabis impacts focus in different individuals across different tasks.
Now, this is where Rogan brings up an interesting connection between cannabis, jiu-jitsu, and the mind-muscle connection.
Okay.
He talks about how cannabis is really popular in the jiu-jitsu world, and he believes it might have something to do with this increased focus we've been talking about, along with the improvisational nature of the sport.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think to really understand this, we need to talk about interoception.
Interoception.
Yeah, interoception is your awareness of your internal state,
Okay.
your body's sensations. It's like being able to feel your heartbeat without taking your pulse, or noticing those subtle changes in your breathing.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going.
Yeah.
Rogan talks about feeling every individual muscle fiber while lifting weights high, which sounds pretty intense.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of heightened interoception.
Yeah.
Rogan suggests that this increased body awareness can actually improve the mind-muscle connection, which could lead to better strength and muscle growth.
Hold on. So being high could potentially make your workouts more effective.
It's possible.
Well,
If cannabis can actually enhance interoception, it could make you more attuned to your muscles during a workout, allowing for more precise movements and greater muscle activation.
interesting.
This is still a relatively new area of research, but the early findings are pretty intriguing.
Definitely. It makes you think about how cannabis might affect other activities that require a high level of body awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
But wouldn't this heightened awareness of your body also make you more sensitive to pain or discomfort during a workout?
That's a great question, and it really highlights how even potential benefits can have trade-offs.
Right.
It's possible that while someone might experience increased mind-muscle connection, they might also be more aware of any aches or pains.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
really underscores the need for more research to understand the full spectrum of effects.
So while this connection between cannabis and interoception is fascinating, we should approach it with a healthy dose of curiosity and caution.
Exactly. We need to balance the enthusiasm with a critical eye, remembering that individual experiences can vary widely, and more research is needed to confirm these potential benefits.
So it's not just about lifting weights, is it? Rogan also talked about how this heightened interoception might improve performance in other physical activities,
Right.
especially those that demand both mental focus and a keen sense of body control.
Exactly. Think about activities like yoga or dance, where being in tune with your body's movements is crucial.
Right.
Even something like playing a musical instrument,
Yeah.
where you need to coordinate your physical actions with a musical idea.
Uh-huh.
You know, if cannabis can enhance your awareness of those subtle movements and sensations,
Yeah.
it could have some pretty amazing implications.
It's like we're discovering a whole new dimension of cannabis.
Yeah,
Use
yeah.
one that goes beyond just relaxation and
Absolutely.
explores the potential of the mind-body connection.
Yeah, I think what's most exciting is that we're starting to look past the stereotypes and really delve into the nuances of how cannabis interacts with our brains and bodies.
Uh-huh.
It's not a one-size-fits-all situation, and there's a lot more research needed to fully understand the potential benefits and risks for different individuals.
Right, and it's crucial to remember that what works for Rogan or Dr. Conte might not work for everyone.
Right.
Individual responses to cannabis vary tremendously.
Yeah.
And what might enhance focus for one person
Right.
could have completely different effects on another.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because we often hear about the potential downsides of cannabis. Yeah. But this conversation has really highlighted some potential upsides that don't get as much attention.
Definitely, the idea that cannabis could enhance interoception and potentially boost things like athletic performance or even creativity
Yeah.
is pretty mind-blowing.
It is pretty amazing.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what we could learn about this plant.
Yeah, and that's why continued research is so important.
Right.
We need to move beyond the stigma and misinformation and really investigate the science to understand how cannabis works, who it might benefit, and how it can be used responsibly.
That makes sense. It's time we start having honest, open discussions about cannabis
Yeah.
that are grounded in evidence and individual experiences
Uh,
rather than outdated assumptions and fear-mongering.
I think what I appreciate about these deep dives is that we can take a complex topic, break it down, and explore different perspectives,
Right.
encouraging people to think critically and challenge their own preconceived notions.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about telling people what to think,
Right.
but rather providing them with the information and tools to form their own informed opinions.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into cannabis and focus, I want to leave our listener with a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If cannabis can enhance interoception, as Rogan and Dr. Conte suggest, what other activities or areas of life might benefit from this heightened awareness of our internal states?
That's a great question to consider. We've touched on athletic performance and creativity,
Mhm.
but what about meditation? Or even something like emotional regulation,
Yeah.
where being more in tune with your body's signals could be incredibly valuable.
I know for me personally, I find that yoga is an activity that really helps me connect with my body and my breath.
Right.
And I've heard others say similar things about meditation or even certain types of art making.
Those are all fantastic examples.
Yeah.
It really highlights how interoception can play a role in so many different aspects of our lives,
Yeah.
from our physical well-being to our emotional state, and even our creative expression.
So as you go about your day, pay attention to those subtle sensations within your body.
Yeah.
Notice your breath, your heartbeat,
Uh-huh.
the feeling of your feet on the ground.
Okay.
Explore different activities and see how they affect your sense of interoception.
Right.
Maybe you'll discover a whole new dimension to your experience of the world.
That's a great point. And remember, the more we learn about ourselves and the world around us, the better equipped we are to live fulfilling and meaningful lives.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. It's really made me think about cannabis in a new light
Yeah, me too.
and sparked my curiosity to learn even more about interoception and its potential applications.
I agree. It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you. It's amazing how much there still is to learn about the human body and how different substances can interact with our complex systems.
Yeah, it's amazing how one conversation can just open up so many new avenues of thought.
Uh-huh.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole connection between cannabis and interoception.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating area with so much to uncover.
I have to admit, before this conversation, I mostly associated cannabis with just, relaxation
Right.
and maybe a bit of creativity.
Sure.
But this whole idea of enhancing interoception and its potential implications for physical performance,
Yeah.
emotional regulation, and even things like meditation, it's truly fascinating.
I think it really speaks to the importance of approaching topics like this with an open mind and a willingness to challenge our assumptions.
Yeah.
There's still so much we don't know about cannabis and its potential effects, both positive and negative.
Right. And I think it's crucial to emphasize that we're not, promoting cannabis use or suggesting that everyone should go out and try it.
Right. Of course not.
We're simply exploring the ideas and the research
Yeah.
and encouraging people to think critically about their own experiences and choices.
Absolutely. It's about empowering people with knowledge so they can make informed decisions that align with their own values and goals.
Right.
And, if someone is considering using cannabis, it's always important to talk to a doctor and be aware of the potential risks as well as the legal implications depending on where they live.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's all about personal responsibility and making choices that are right for you.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into cannabis and focus,
Oh,
I want to leave our listener with this final thought.
right.
If cannabis can enhance interoception, as Joe Rogan and Dr. Conte suggest, what other activities or areas of life might benefit from this heightened awareness of our internal state?
It's a really interesting question to consider.
Yeah.
We've discussed some possibilities, but I'm sure there are countless others waiting to be explored.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something as simple as taking a walk in nature and really paying attention to the sensations of your body moving through space. Or maybe it's something more introspective like journaling, or even just taking a few moments to sit quietly and notice your breath and your heartbeat.
I love that, it's about finding those practices that help you connect with your inner world,
Right.
whatever those might be.
Exactly.
And maybe cannabis can play a role in that journey for some people,
Yeah.
but it's certainly not the only path.
Absolutely. It's about exploring different avenues and discovering what works best for you as an individual.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on. A reminder that we are all on our own unique journeys of self-discovery, and there are endless possibilities waiting to be explored.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. Thank you for sharing your expertise and guiding us through this fascinating conversation.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this journey of exploration.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Remember, stay curious, stay open-minded, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge and self-discovery.